Do you live in an apartment building? Are you frustrated and in pain because of the noise of your neighbors? Do you think your neighbors are completely oblivious to how they hurt other inhabitants in that block of flats? Do you think they don't care? They make noise if they want to make noise. They don't care if other people suffer because of it. Well, your first mistake was to live among demons, in close quarters among demons. What did you expect will happen? Demons do what demons do. Demons don't care about anything else but themselves. They don't even care about themselves. They do whatever comes at their fancy. They do whatever fancies them, and in the moment, they don't care about anything. So your first mistake was living among them. If you want peace and quiet, if you want a uninterrupted, peaceful, even joyous life, you have to live far away from them, at least a kilometer away from any neighbor. Because even if you live in a house, you won't have people above you or below you or beside you making your life miserable with their noise, but you will have people outside of your house, your neighbors, in other houses, making noise, which will not be as noticeable as somebody was banging on the walls or jumping up and down or running through the apartment above you or below you. But you know, it will still it will be a lesser suffering, but it will still be suffering. So what you need to do is get out of the city, move to a proximity of the city, so you know, if there's a medical emergency, you can still reach the emergency room, or you know, a emergency vehicle can get to you in time. But otherwise, you live outside of the city, near the benefits or amenities of the city, but far away from any neighbor. So your cottage or house has to be at least let's say a kilometer away from any neighbor. Usually you can achieve that by living up on high, which means in the hills. But you know, certain hills are very inhabited, very highly inhabited, because you know, there's a nice view or something like that, and people want to buy there and bunch up together with others to look at that view, which is usually obstructed by other houses. I never understood that, and paying top dollar for it. So you have to go where it's not that popular, but at the same usually it's like, you know, you buy a hill or a property of some you know, some farmer that stopped farming, and you know, the whole property or the whole hill is just languishing, and the house is coming into huge disrepair, is partly, you know, falling down and stuff like that. So usually if you have the whole hill for yourself, usually you are decently enough far away from other neighbors that you will have peace and quiet. But it has to be sort of close enough to the city, or at least semi um, semi large town that has the medical facilities. That's very important. Or you can be lucky and be near a let's say a resort of some sorts that has the medical facilities for that resort, and also takes other people, and then you can just be far away from any city, as long as that resort has the open medical facilities for anybody. And usually they're not as crowded as well, those facilities, unless it's peak season, or something like that. So these are some of the solutions you can have to end your suffering from other people's noise. But most people, 90% of people, or at least 80% of people, are not even bothered by noise by that much, but certain people are, and I'm in the 10 to 20% of people that have highly attuned hearing. And unfortunately, I hear everything. Even to this day, I hear a pin drop. I hear absolutely everything. And if somebody's jumping up and down on top or on bottom, or just playing music loudly, or God forbid, playing an instrument, because people don't care, instead of just buying some headphones to plug them in and just play their guitar or play their drums or whatever they do incompetently, in 99% of the cases. They don't care if neighbors are going insane. They don't give a shit. So your first mistake is to live in blocks of flats. That's your first mistake. Usually those are just like hen cages, It's just unlivable most of the time, What I experienced, let's say in Australia, was that even in blocks of flats, the noise that people made, like the impact noise, like when people jump up and down, on the floors and stuff like that, the impact noise was not heard at all. I was pretty quiet, but the outside noise was heard because there was no insulation of any kind most of the time, There wasn't there wasn't temperature insulation or any noise insulation whatsoever. So the outside was kind of loud, but the inside was, okay. It was pretty well. It was pretty well, pretty good. And so you could live there in blocks of flats, without any problems. But that's because the only reason why that was so is because in Australia they used to have, when I was there, they used to have, well, I'm going to return, but still, I think now they've gotten to this European way of living that everybody just is so loud and banging on the floor. Because in Australia they used to have like 99% of houses and blocks of flats, they had carpet throughout the whole apartment. There was carpet. But now they started to imitate, the Europeans with their wooden floors and stuff like that. It was just, hopefully, they're not as crazy, but I'm pretty sure that in the last years, they've taken out the carpet and put in the wooden floors, and now you can hear absolutely every pin drop, You can hear everybody walking around, jumping up and down, running through. I'm sure it's horrible now. It used to be perfect. You used to not hear anything. The outside was a bit noisy, but inside was perfect. because of the carpet, wall-to-wall carpet. That's why it was so great. So yeah, if you live anywhere where they don't have wall-to-wall carpets in apartments, you better not rent it, because unless you're the type of person that can't hear anything, or isn't bothered by noise. But if you are your hearing is highly attuned, then you're out of luck. You have to go live in a house far away from anybody, because it's just otherwise your life is just a total misery. Just a complete and utter misery. You cannot live. It's like somebody. Let me explain how it feels. Tolerating noise from other people constantly. It's like somebody pricking you with a knife and stabbing you, all the time, like every 5 seconds. Boom, 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 boom. Like, you cannot live. It's just, you cannot concentrate on anything. It's just impossible to concentrate on anything, to think about anything. You're just like completely out of your mind. You can't. The only thing you can do is put in the ear plugs and put on earmuffs and just do that 24/7 while you're inside. Otherwise, you can't live. Especially once people come home from work and stuff like that, and kids are around. It's just horrible. Plus, in Europe, a lot of construction, a lot of high rises are absolutely dog shit quality, and you can hear absolutely everything. So for anybody that's like that, especially people that are HSPs, which means highly sensitive person, their nervous system is a lot more sensitive than other people's, and other people obviously don't understand that because they don't have that. So it's highly attuned to everything. Your hearing is attuned, your taste is here, your vision is as well, but mostly your nervous system is highly attuned to everything. So you can empathize better than anybody else. You're more emotional. You feel emotions more deeply than most people. Everything is heightened up. The senses are heightened up, so everything is heightened up. You're much more intuitive and perceptive than everybody else. There are about 10 to 20% of people like that are HSPs. And other people will never understand you and never get you, because you might as well be sort of an alien to other people, because your senses are heightened in pretty much everything. So that's it. That's my solution to the noise problem. Move out of the city, near the city, or near some major health facility, even if it's not near the city, and don't have any neighbors near you for at least 1 kilometer, or something like that. I mean, if the neighbors are particularly quiet and you've tested that, you've lived there for at least a week or 2 weeks, and you don't have any problems with noise, you might as well consider ramping down that from 1 kilometer to whatever that is, at that particular place that you think is quiet enough. But it's just, you have to find a quiet place. That's all it is. Also, a good recommendation would be, but in Europe you don't have that. You have that mostly in Australia. You don't have that much as well. But in America, in the US, you have whole communities that are mainly retired people. Whole communities that are mainly retired people. And you can rent or buy a house there, even if it's more of a retirement community, And those communities are normally, even if the houses are bunched up together, those communities are normally, not always, but normally in maybe 60% or 70% of the cases, they are normally more quiet than normal communities where kids are around and, you know, people go to work and stuff like that. They're usually more quiet, you know. They're not totally quiet, but they're a lot better than normal. But you know, if you're an HSP, you won't be able to probably tolerate even that, you know, because people are just noise machines, you know. It doesn't matter what age they are, but you know, the elderly are usually quieter, you know, and they like quiet as well. But not everybody, you know. Some, it just takes one asshole to, you know, to ruin it for everybody else, you know, in the community. It just takes one asshole neighbor to ruin it for 10 of them or 20 of them or 100 of them, you know. So the best way to be is just be, you know, on your own without any neighbors, if possible, unless you have very quiet neighbors. They are respectful and and they don't make noise. Unless you can do that, but even then, that might not last. You know, some neighbor might sell the house or move out or whatever, and some noisy asshole comes in, and you have to then move or kill him. I'm kidding, obviously, but you know, I mean, it's not permanent. The only thing that it's permanent is if you have a big enough, you know, a parcel of land that you don't have any neighbors near you, you know, or that you live in some, you know, some hill somewhere that you basically own the whole hill because, like I said, the farmer used to own the whole hill and he farmed on the hill, and now, you know, you bought the whole thing, and now it's yours and nobody can move there because, you know, obviously you're not going to sell it because you want peace and quiet to anybody else, unless you move and then you make smaller lots and you sell the small lots and that's it. You know, you move somewhere else. But obviously before that, you know, if it's good for you, if it's quiet enough and it's nice living there, you just continue living there. So that's it. I think that's the only solution for HSPs that are bothered by noise a lot, you know. All right. See you next time. Cheers.